So you said, on your version, here's my phone, please download only this video clip, these video clippings, and then return it to me. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And from there the chain begins. Prior to that, you agree there's no chain of custody. Do you agree, Colonel?
It was handed in, it was extracted, and it was handed back to me.
I'm going to ask you the question again, Colonel. From there the chain begins. Do you agree that prior to your doing so there was no chain of custody?
From me to them, that's correct, Your Worship.
And in your evidence before this court, you said that it depicts accused one firing shots and accused two receiving a firearm from accused one, and then you quickly qualified that by saying it appeared to be a firearm. Is that correct?
That's correct, Your Worship.
Now, you have referred to the facial recognition that was done at your request. Is that correct?
That's correct, Your Worship.
You also requested firearm recognition. Do you agree?
That's correct, Your Worship.
I'm going to give you your answer. You didn't mention it because it was an unintentional omission. Is that correct?
That is correct, Your Worship.
Please explain to this court why you never mentioned the request for firearm recognition, Colonel.
You should have it.
I'm not sure my notes indicates that he did mention for firearm and facial. It was the words that he used.
Indeed,
Yes.
so Advocate.
I will rephrase. Thank you. No, I apologize. Unequivocally.
Don't have to apologize.
No, if I got it wrong, I got it wrong. I want to put you, Colonel, that you never said that the firearm was not recognized as a result of the tests. Do you have any comment?
Okay.
Your Worship, I mentioned that she could not, in a report, identified.
I think if I quote him correctly, Advocate Otis, and I stand corrected, his evidence was due to the muzzle flash she could not identify the persons, but I will look for the evidence if that will assist you.
It says so, Your Worship, but it's confirmed.
You want me to have a
I
look?
missed it, I accept it.
No, you can consult with the others who took notes, and I can assist you as well. Don't want you to accept something you're not
Your Worship,
comfortable
I
with.
have, my note reads as follows.
Yes.
Simultaneously, as part of the investigation, I also requested Warrant Officer Steenkamp to get sample images of accused one and accused two, and requested her to compile a facial comparison to identify accused one and accused two from the photo album and CD. A report was submitted to me by Warrant Officer Steenkamp with both accused one and accused two. She could identify through her methodologies by means of facial comparisons. The CD from Captain Botha was also handed in as an exhibit. I don't have anything about the firearm.
Okay, thereafter, it comes later. I'll just look for it and read to you if I
have notes
find.
of muzzle flash towards the end.
He stopped
He
it.
was referring to the, say he made a second request with the DRL footage where he specifically asked for that.
Yes.
He was unable to do
I'm
so.
getting to that, then I will read it into the record, then you may see if you have, it just comes a bit further down. Nearly there, just a minute. Okay, here we go, Advocate Otis. It goes way after that part of his evidence. he testified. The footage was downloaded and still photos were also, it's difficult to see, I don't know how you manage it. The photos were also provided. I received it from Brigadier Covender. I also requested warrant of a Steenkamp to see if she could identify the persons on the footage and facial comparison, and she indicated in her report she could not conduct any comparison or identity based on the mythologies.
Can I read you my notes in that regard?
Yes, certainly.
The footage was then downloaded. A still photo album was also provided. I received this from Brigadier Governor. Simultaneously, I also requested warrant officer Steenkamp to identify the firearm on the video clipping and facial comparison. In the report, she indicated that she could not conduct any facial comparisons based on her methodologies.
Yes.
But I can leave it for Joshua. It's hard to record every single word.
It is hard to?
I will leave it at that. I won't take it further.
No, I'll continue reading. It's just extremely difficult to do so. I think you also have a problem seeing the... I'm not saying you're not seeing what I want you to see, merely that it's difficult, strenuous on the eyes.
I'm prepared to leave it, Joshua, in the interest of making progress.
Okay, you may continue in the meantime.
What I want to put to your Colonel is that you, of your own accord, said what appeared to be a firearm because you are not certain that it is actually a firearm. Do you agree with me?
Bishop, viewing the clippings, I will not be in a position to say that it's a firearm, a real firearm.
Yet, in your statement, as been pointed out to you, when you applied for the warrant of search and seizure, it's your A27 if you want in your docket, you never referred to it as what appeared to be a firearm. Do you agree with me?
Shots, Your Worship, if you can repeat that one.
Yes. When you made your statement in A27 to apply for the warrant of search and seizure, you never referred to it as what appeared to be a firearm.
That's correct, Your Worship.
You referred to it as a firearm, and out of fairness to you, you said handing the alleged firearm back to another nephew. Now, through all of your investigations, be it by means of requesting people to identify, to enhance, and to look at the photos and the video, you cannot, as a fact, say that that is a firearm. Do you agree with me?
On the video clippings, that's correct, Bishop.
What you used to identify it, and you did express your own reservations out of fairness to you, what you did use, you said you're not a ballistics expert, but because there's muzzle flash, you were of the view that it was a firearm. Is that correct?
Shots were fired, and because of the muzzle flash, Your Worship, the firearm must be used.
I want to put you, sir, that the stage firearms and they're referred to as blank firearms also emit muzzle flash. Do you have any comment?
Your Worship, I'm not aware as indicated. about the type of firearms or a ballistic expert.
Now, what I want to ask you, sir, is you said that from where the shots were fired on the side of the stage, during the reconstruction, it was at more or less the same area where the cartridge was found. Do you remember that?
The direction more or less.
I want to put you, sir, that was contradicted by the witness who testified to finding the cartridge. Do you have any comments?
Your Worship, I've got no comment on what the witness was testifying.
In fact, I want to put to you, sir, that the spent cartridge that's relied upon by the state is found far out of range from where the alleged shooting is said to have taken place. Do you have any comment?
No comment, Your Worship.
Now, in that instance, when you spoke of a reconstruction, once again, just for clarity, because we have different definitions of the reconstruction, you're referring to where the witness pointed out to you that she had found the cartridge. Is that correct?
That's correct, Your Worship.
Now, that was photographed, and you're aware of that.
That's correct, Your Worship.
In fact, I believe you were in court even at the time it was handed up as an exhibit. Is that correct?
I cannot recall the recollection.
Well, were you here on the first days of trial when the witness who found the cartridge testified? I can give you her name and her details if you want.
Your Worship, I'm aware of the witnesses and what she pointed, where she pointed out the photos was taken. That is correct, Your Worship.
So you were in court when she testified, is that correct?
Your Worship, I cannot recall if I was inside or outside. But the witness did testify, Your Worship. I can confirm that.
I want to hand you what we have as Exhibit A.
Okay.
I know there might be differences, Your Worship might have it, because there are several photos and there's some deliberation between my colleagues and I, but we have this as Exhibit A. It's the photograph of the stadium. On your terminology, reconstruction, where was that round or the spent cartridge found?
Your Worship, if I can...
Referring to this one, Advocate Horace?
No, that's why we have different ones, Your Worship. That's the difficulty I have. If I can hand Your Worship mine, you'll see it.
You can just... Thank you. Oh, okay. Okay, the only difference is yours is a bit forward and mine depicts an empty stadium, a full stadium, and yours an empty stadium.
No, that's what I say, they're different, Your Worship.
Okay.
My learned colleagues have the same as I have.
All right, but I've taken note of what you've shown, so I'm aware you may keep your copy and proceed.
Worship, if I can see the photo album also, I can point out because I'm not familiar with this photo yet. I see the what do you call this? The flashlight, the lamp pole,
Yes.
the floodlights. It was in that vicinity of the floodlight. if I'm correct.
You had no difficulty, Colonel, telling the court earlier that during the reconstruction, which we've established wasn't a reconstruction, at more or less the same area where the cartridge was found, as pointed out by the witness. Now I want to know where you're referring to, Colonel.
Your Worship, on the side of the stage.
Which side, the left or the right facing the stage?
On the left-hand side, if I face it this way.
The left-hand side facing the stage, yes. Now, Colonel, I'm going to hand to you Exhibit A3, which is the one that you had requested, of the witness, and photographed. In photograph 8, you'll see what she's pointing to. You'll see, and I'm going to help you, that photograph 8 is described as being the witness pointing out where she found the spent cartridge. So if you look at the key.
It's more or less in front of the floodlights, Your Worship.
If you're facing the stage, it's on the left-hand side. If you're on the stage, it's on the right-hand side. Is that correct?
Yes, left, where I'm facing. That's correct, Your Worship.
You've been to the scene, you've seen it. Can you give us an indication of the distance that the witness is in photo 8 to the stage, to where the stage was?
I will not be in a position to give you a distance, Your Worship, but a direction more or less.
Colonel, then you weren't qualified to say more or less in the same area.
The word he uses direction, not area.
No, you used the word area. I disagree with you. I've got an answer.
I specifically clarified it with the witness to ask, does it mean area or direction? And he said direction.
In his evidence in chief, I'm not sure what word he used now. Are you referring to now, Advocate Otis?
Your Worship, my learned friend did clarify it, is correct.
Yes.
But the witness of his own accord said more or less the same area
As
where the cartridge was found.
Not the same area as the floodlights?
Yes, sir. He didn't mention floodlights, Your Worship.
He mentioned the floodlights now.
Yes.
During this
Yes.
2 questions ago. Okay, nonetheless, the last one I got now from it, he cannot give us an estimate
Of the distance.
And you then stated then he cannot qualify to give
The area.
the area.
Thank you.
So that is where we stopped. Okay.
That's correct.
Right.
And I want to put to you further, Colonel, because it's pertinent to this matter, that if you had reconstructed the scene, having used the term reconstruction more than once, you would have been able to do a test to see where and in what direction the cartridge would have been ejected from a firearm. Do you agree with me?
Your Worship, when it comes to ejections and those things, again, it falls within the ambit of a ballistic expert. But correctly so, if that was done, you could have given an estimate.
Well, then let me rephrase the question for you, Colonel. Neither you nor any ballistic expert reconstructed this scene.
That's correct, Your Worship.
So nobody can come to court and speak of areas and directions without being very vague, because no actual reconstruction was done. Do you agree with me?
That's correct, Your Worship.
And there was no reconstruction in the true sense of the term reconstruction, where the stage was rebuilt and tests were conducted to see how far away from the stage a ejected spent cartridge would fall. Do you agree with me?
That's correct, Your Worship.
Now, if one looks at the video as well, the first point that comes to mind is that it was dark, it was night time. Do you agree with me?
That's correct, Your Worship.
The second thing that comes to mind is that there are more than one shots fired by this apparatus. Do you agree with me?
That's correct, Your Worship.
Yet, despite diligent searches using metal detectors and bomb experts, all that one can refer to is some type of a spent cartridge that was found at a distance from the stage. Do you agree with me?
The cartridge was found at that particular spot, Your Worship. That's correct.
You aren't in a position, as you've told the court now, to even give an indication of the distance where the witness is in photo 8 to the stage. Do you agree with me?
That's correct, Your Worship.
But if one has regard on a process of logic to where the lamppost is with the floodlights, it's a considerable distance. It's tens, if not 20s or 30s or 40s or 50s of meters. Do you agree with me?
Bishop, I will not dispute the distance. As indicated, there was no measurements taken.
Now, the bigger issue, sir, is if you look at what I have as Exhibit A, or even the copy that Her Worship has, there are structures that are in the way between the stage and the lamp post for the floodlight that prohibit, in fact make it impossible for the cartridge to have got there from being fired on the stage. Do you agree with me? I'll show you the photos so you'll see what I mean.
Yes, I see there is structures there, Your Worship.
Now, you've had every opportunity and you've had years to investigate this matter. In order for a cartridge to get to where the witness is standing in photo 8, it would have to have penetrated these structures and damaged them. Do you agree with me?
Your Worship, I cannot comment on that.
It's logical, Colonel, it's logical. There's structures covering the lawn. The spent cartridge was found on the lawn. It would have to have penetrated or got through these structures to get there. Do you agree with me?
Your Worship, I cannot comment on that. I was not at the stadium at the time when that happened.
Well then, Colonel, with respect, you're not qualified to have told this court it was in the area or direction where the witness had said she'd found it. Because you have no idea where it was on your own version now.
Your Worship, that is where the witness pointed out she found the cartridge casing. And then Mr. Horace is identifying structures that is in place there.
The witness identifies it on photograph 8. Do you agree with me? That's common cause.
That's correct, Your Worship.
If you look at photo A, there were structures that were in the way and covering that area. It's illogical. Do you see that?
That's correct, Your Worship.
Then it's impossible. It's simply impossible for a cartridge to have been fired there with these structures at the top. Do you agree with me, Colonel?
Your Worship, I cannot comment on that.
Are we going to call this another innocent omission or unintended omission? Because it's logical, sir.
If you indicate it's logical, Your Worship, it's my version that I testify to that effect.
I want to put to you, Colonel, that you, having investigated this for 5 years before you came to testify and having analysed everything, cannot prove that the actual firearm was utilised on your own version. Do you agree?
Your Worship, once again, the evidence was presented. The video clips, I cannot in the video clips indicate that that is a real firearm or not.
Your Worship, I see it's almost 1 o'clock. Would this be an opportune time to take the lunch break? I can take instructions and we can eat soon after lunch.
Yes, Mr. Mayor. What time will we then agree to convene? I'm available.
2 p.m.
Please.
Yes, I'll agree to that.
Is Makina? Is Makina? Sihle. Sit about to. see if the charge sheet opens and oh. Thank you, Court will adjourn until 2 o'clock.
Ground staff that you interviewed after the event were not present during the event on 28th of July 2018.
I will not know that.
There's no eyewitness who attended the event that came to you and complained of any risk or danger to them. Do you agree?
Nobody came forward, Your Worship.
It's not even that nobody came forward. There's no eyewitness that came here to testify that they had been a member of the SAPS VIP protection services and had seen anything untoward that night. Do you agree with me?
That's correct, Your Worship.
It thus seems that the only basis of the complaint is what you refer to as the viral video footage. Is that correct?
Your Worship, the viral footage that was circulated, the cartridge casing that was linked with the firearm that was presented for ballistic testing.
Now, you've never authenticated that video, as we've explained. You don't know who the original photographer was, do you agree?
That's correct, Your Worship.
You're aware that video footage can be manipulated, do you agree with me?
I'm not familiar
You
with
get TikTok, you can put somebody else's voice with your picture, you know, it happens with memes, with all different things on phones these days, do you agree with me?
Your Worship, I'm not familiar with those type of IT.
And you most certainly cannot state that that isn't a blank firearm. Do you agree with me?
I cannot say it's a blank firearm.
May I take one instruction?
Certainly.
Instructed to put to you that the firearm that you see on the video was what's known as a blank firearm. Do you have any comment?
Bishop, as indicated, I will not be able to say that is a real firearm or not a real firearm.
You can't dispute that, you agree?
Bishop, I cannot indicate whether it's a real firearm or not.
Thank you. No further questions.
Thank you. Advocate Caesar, any re-examination?
Mr. Kubo, sorry, I just want to establish from you, was it the firearm or the spent cartridge that was sent for touch DNA?
The cartridge casing was tested for touch DNA.
Not the firearm. Was the firearm sent for that?
I cannot recall that the firearm was examined for touch DNA.
Thank you. No further questions.
Thank you. There'll be one or two aspects that the court would like to ask from you. Just want to get to the relevant pages. It will take me a second or so, please. When today, for the first time, I heard about the VIP protection provided on the said day, you stated 2 members from the Eastern Cape unit that you interviewed.
That's correct, Your Worship.
My question will be then, did you also oversee the placing of those VIP unit members at the scene or at the celebration?
I will not know where they were placed, Your Worship. But during the interview, they indicated that they were present at the stadium.
Yes. So in the interview, they indicated they were present at the stadium. Correct?
That's correct, Your Worship.
So I obviously cannot ask you questions about the other 3 because I gather the statements from them was obtained by one then Brigadier Governor.
That's correct, Your Worship.
Okay. Did the 2 VIP unit members you interviewed mention that they were on the stage at the time?
Your Worship, if I can recall, they were outside, not on the stage, or near the. I cannot recall, Your Worship, but they just said they were present.
I assume you know the witnesses that you interviewed and their features?
The 2 protection units?
Yes.
Yes, they police members in the Eastern Cape Protection Services.
Yes. On the clips that you viewed, did you see them on the stage in those clips?
Your Worship, it is difficult. No, it's very difficult to identify them on the stage.
I don't, can your answer be clear? It's difficult to identify, or no, you didn't see them on the stage?
I didn't see them.
Questions based on the court's questions, Advocate Caesar?
So may I have a few moments just to check something?
Yes.
May I approach the accused?
Certainly.
I want to put to you that the close protection officers have to be close to accused number 1 to protect him. Do you have any comment, Colonel? You do.
As indicated, I will not be able to know the protocol normally that the close protectors follow.
And I want to put to you, because you have access to the docket, that the first two persons that I mentioned from the Gauteng section of VIP Protection Services, that's Pia Edwin Gara, spelled K-G-A-R-E, and Thomas Chaki, both stated in their statement that they were on the stage when accused number one was on the stage. Do you have any comment?
I will not dispute it.
So, Advocate Otis, the defense and the state and the court is then going to rely on the hearsay evidence, which is not going to be, unless you intend calling them or Brigadier Governor.
Hearsay can come in if it's admitted. He's just said he doesn't dispute it. He had control of the statements. In the statements, I'm not saying it's the truth or not. In the statements, they both say, those two say that they were on the stage. That's all that I'm putting to you.
It's for him to comment on. All right, you may comment, the witness.
If they said it, I will not dispute.
Thank you.
Thank you. I have no further questions.
Advocate Matthews.
I have no further questions, Your Worship. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, the witness. We had finalized your evidence. You are excused and you may stand down.
Thank you. This will be my last witness, the state's case.
Okay, just a minute. Let me just put it all together. Advocate Otis.
Bishop, I've been instructed to apply for the Section 174 discharge of accused number one. In order to do so, Bishop, I need to review my notes and the exhibits, and I respectfully request to remand until our next date being Wednesday morning, Bishop. I'll be in a position to do so. At that stage, I won't be able to give up typed heads of argument, but I will address your worship in detail from the bar, with references to the evidence and the exhibits that have been admitted by this court thus far in support of the application.
Thank you. Advocate Matthews.
I have had similar instructions. I might be able to give you written. Yes.
To go a far way.
The fish are biting or not over the weekend.
accused 1 and 2. The matter then postponed to the 20th of September. You're both warned for 8:30, Regional Court 1, bail extended. Keep in mind, I do not know whether there's load shedding on Monday or not. On Wednesday or not. We only know by Monday or Tuesday, Sergeant. For the 174 application to proceed. Furthermore, obviously the state will also only hear your arguments on that Wednesday. They may require time to prepare or respond to the Thursday. I cannot guarantee that I am going to give a ruling or a judgment immediately thereafter. I also have to read all the documents that have been placed before me this week, and witnesses flying at like a flash through the court, and I'm handed the bulk of documents. I have to read it as well. I will do my best to do so over the weekend and until then, but I also have a fully packed court roll Monday and Tuesday. So we'll see what happens. For now, 8:30 Regional Court 1, 20 September. Thank you.
Your Worship, then the cartridge casing in the presence of the witness was then placed in a temper sealed bag as an exhibit. Photographs were taken. And a reconstruction of where the cartridge casing was picked up was pointed out. And the scene was reconstructed by Sergeant Susie of the local criminal record center relating to where the cartridge casing was found. Your Worship, we then proceed. The mentioned cartridge casing in this tempered seal bag was then handed over to me, which I put then in the SCP-30, sealed at Mdntv.
Do you have the SCP-30 number?
Your Worship, my recollection, if I'm 100%, it's SCP-30 number 688, subject to correction, 2018. Your Worship, during the same day, I was informed that the viral footage was forwarded to Colonel Muzuku, who was captain at the time. By Captain Mali Governor from the Provincial Communication Office of the Eastern Cape.
Just a minute. During the same day, you were informed that the
viral footage was forwarded to Colonel Mzuku, who was our communication officer at Mdntv.
Okay, just a minute there, please. Sorry, Colonel. I think we are all in darkness here because the light is not switched on. That side of the lights, I think I have to do it here. That's been worrying me. Sorry for that. Let me just... Is it not working? That side now as well. Let me just try these ones and see. Apologies for that. I think that helps a little bit to see.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I don't know whether the witness wish to remain standing or want to
No,
be seated.
it's okay.
You want to?
Thank you.
Yes, thank you. You may continue.
Your Worship, then a request was made to Colonel Mzuku to forward the viral footage, which was on our official handsets, meaning our cell phones, to my official handset. For the purpose of being extracted. And assist during the investigation process. Indeed, Your Worship, the footage was forwarded by Colonel Mzuku, and on the following day, a request was made to the DPSI, its London office, to assist in extracting the data, meaning the footage, the viral footage. And assist with still photos, compiling a photo album from that viral clipping. Your Worship, my official handset was then handed in to Sergeant Dwayne Francis and Captain Wota from the DPSI office, Eastern Cape, Digital Lab. A request was then made as indicated that they must extract the viral footage which depict accused 1 firing shots and accused number 2 receiving a firearm from accused number 1, appeared to be firearm. Your Worship, I received a CD and still photos, meaning a photo album, afterwards. From Captain Botha. In a sealed bag which contained a photo album simultaneously, Your Worship, as part of the investigation, I also requested now retired Warrant Officer Steenkamp would sample images of accused 1, Mr. Malema, and accused number 2, Mr. Snyman, and requested Warrant Officer Steenkamp if she could compile a facial comparison to identify accused 1 and accused 2 from the photo album and CD that was recorded. A report was then submitted to me by Warrant Officer Steenkamp, that both accused number 1, Mr. Malema, and accused number 2, she could identify through her methodologies by means of facial comparisons. Your Worship, just add on, the CD that I received from Captain Botha was also handed in as an exhibit at our police station in Dansound and booked into the SCP-13 exhibit store. Your Worship, the investigation continued. Information was then received that Mr. Snyman was contracted for his company, for which he belongs to his company, Tactical Security, in Durban, provide personal protection to Mr. Malema. Your Worship, on that basis, I've applied for a search warrant in terms of the Criminal Procedure Act. At Durban Chief Magistrate's Office, which was granted. On the 10th of August 2018. The reason for that, Your Worship, was as a result of the cartridge casing that was found. And the purpose of the search warrant is to establish or to find if Mr. Snyman have or rifles that in his possession that can fire that cartridge casing, caliber of cartridge casing. The cartridge casing, I'm not a ballistic expert, but the cartridge casing which was written on was a .223 caliber. On the 11th of August 2018, the search warrant was then executed. Your Worship, I can also add on that Brigadier Governor, now General Governor, was assisting me. He's from the DPS side. At that time he was in the Eastern Cape. At the tactical security premises at KZN Bluff, it's Bluff KZN, we arrived at the premises during the morning. And Mr. Snyman joined us. The gates were closed and Mr. Snyman joined us shortly thereafter when we arrived. During the consultations, we informed him that we've got an authorized search warrant, which was granted by the Chief Magistrate's Office in Durban. We provided him with a copy. He then alluded that he first have to consult with his defense counsel, Advocate Khaled.
You mean Mr. Razia?
That's correct, Your Worship. She was conversing or consulting with Brigadier Governor. The advocate then, Advocate Khaled then informed Mr. Snyman that I think a photo pic also was forwarded to Advocate Khaled to indicate the authenticity of the search warrant. And Mr. Snyman thereafter cooperated fully, Your Worship, and assisted throughout the process. Your Worship, there was an incident, but again, Advocate Khaled diffused the situation where Mr. Snyman said he was going to call Mr. Malema, but we were all scared that time, but she managed to diffuse the situation and we proceeded, he cooperated. Your Worship, during this process, 22 firearms, rifles, was identified by Mr. Snyman. He assisted, thank you, in providing us that rifles that could fire .22 caliber cartridge case. Or bullets, Your Worship. The 12 rifles was then sealed in the presence of Mr. Snyman.
You said 22 rifles, if I noted correctly, now you said 12 rifles.
So there was 12 rifles.
12.
The rifles was then sealed in his presence. It was placed in tamper-free sealed bags, evidence bags. Photographed. Mr. Snyman acknowledged a receipt of the search warrant and also the handing over of the 12 rifles. We also want to add on that the responsible person on the search warrant was mentioned as Mr. Ndluli. On our arrival at the premises, and the arrival of Mr. Snyman, he indicated that Mr. Ndluli was hospitalized and that he is a co-owner, a senior director, and he was the key holder at the time. Your Worship, the 12 firearms was then transported to Brighton Beach Police Station. In KZN, where it was booked in as exhibits. And booked out again for transportation to the Eastern Cape Forensic Science Laboratory Ballistic Section. Your Worship, I was personally involved with the transportation of the 12 rifles to the Eastern Cape Forensic Science Laboratory. Also to add on, Your Worship, at the time of this execution of the search warrant, Mr. Snyman assisted fully in cooperating and indicated that all the rifles, due to the business that they having, was not on the premises. So at the time, he could only provide us with the 12 rifles. And with the assistance of Advocate Cards again, Worship, we managed to have a compromise where we indicated that the 12 firearms, after the analysis at the ballistic session, will then be brought back and at that stage, if a new batch of firearms is available, it will then be handed over to us with their assistance, and it happened like that, Your Worship. they fully cooperated. The 12 firearms was then handed in at Port Elizabeth, Kabega, Forensic Science Laboratory, Ballistic Section, and Colonel Mngudleka received acknowledge of it. A request for ballistic analysis was then requested. To the Eastern Cape Forensic Science Laboratory Ballistic Section. To conduct ballistic analysis. IBIS testing.
Sorry, ballistic analysis and?
IBIS testing. Determine if the rifles can be classified as firearms in terms of the Firearm Control Act. And if it can be linked to any crime or alleged crime. Your Worship, the firearms was then analyzed at the Forensic Science Laboratory, Ballistic Section. The 12 firearms that was brought. And then on completion of that, I was personally also involved in collecting the 12 firearms as per arrangements with Advocate Collins. The firearms was then taken back to Brighton Beach Police Station, SCP-13 Clark. Colonel Creer, it was handed over to him. In order to hand over to the lawful owner at the time, Mr. Snyman collected it. Your Worship, the arrangement was then, as I indicated, that the Advocate Collins and Mr. Snyman cooperated, and a new set of firearms, 14 of them, was received already sealed in evidence bags from Colonel Creer at Brighton Beach Police Station, the SCP-13 Clark. The 14 firearms, I was personally also involved with the transportation of it to Eastern Cape Forensic Science Laboratory, ballistic section. The same request as the first 12 that was handed in, Your Worship, was also requested for analysis, ballistic analysis. Your Worship, with the analysis of the second batch of firearms, I was not involved in the transportation back to Durban, Brighton Beach. I received a report that 5 rifles was retained. By the ballistic section. Nine was then returned to Brighton Beach Police. Colonel Creer, the executing clerk. And as per range, as I indicated to court, that additional 14 firearms was then received again rifles. Which was then transported again to the Forensic Science Laboratory in the Eastern Cape, ballistic section, for analysis. Your Worship, after the completion of that firearms with the last batch, 1 firearm was retained. And then the rest of the firearms was then returned to Brighton Beach Police for the handing over to the lawful owner.
When you said all the firearms were returned, Colonel, you mean including the previous 5 that was
Were
retained?
retained. That's
but
correct, Worship.
only the 1 was
Was
kept.
retained.
Do you know which one was kept?
Your Worship. In terms of the report, it's a firearm, a rifle with a serial number SPA 249/14. Your Worship, the report I received from the ballistic section indicated that the mentioned rifle was linked with the cartridge casing that was found at Sisatokasha Stadium, as indicated. Your Worship, I can also add that the cartridge casing that was found and handed in the SCP-30 exhibit store was analyzed by Warrant Officer Becker at the Criminal Record Crime Scene Investigation Unit, also based in Port Elizabeth. The request for that analysis was if they could trace any touch DNA on the cartridge casing, conduct fingerprint examination, and Your Worship, with this report I received, there was fingerprints that was found on the cartridge casing. But it could not be linked to anyone on our database. And the touch DNA analysis was also negative, meaning nobody could be linked. Your Worship, the investigation continued. It also information was also received that Gear House was contracted by EFF to erect
looking for a stage.
A stage, lighting, music, and CCTV footage. Section 205 in terms of the Criminal Procedure Act was applied for at Mdntv Chief Magistrate's Office. Requesting Gear House to make the CCTV footage available for investigation purposes. Your Worship, the application was granted. And Gear House assisted with handing over the relevant footage. Brigadier Governor, now General Governor, was tasked to assist in that regard. The footage was then downloaded, and still photos or photo album was also provided. I received it from Brigadier Governor, and then simultaneously I also requested Warrant Officer Steenkamp also for if she could identify the firearm on the video clipping and facial comparisons. Your Worship, in her report she indicated that she could not identify as per request, or she could not conduct any facial comparisons. Based on her methodologies. Your Worship, I also, during the course of the investigation, requested CIRA, that is the Private Security Industry Regulatory Authority in the Eastern Cape, the regional manager, Mr. Stander, to establish if Mr. Snyman is registered as a security official with the authority. Your Worship, they confirmed that Mr. Snyman was registered and the relevant training and status that he's currently having. Your Worship, I also requested from the designated firearm and liquor officer at our station in Mdansani, Sergeant Kangaliza is now warrant officer, to look at the firearm enhancement system. That is a system that the police are using for trained officials to have access to see if a person is competent in a certain caliber of firearm. Your Worship, it was established that Mr. Snyman do possess competencies in a handgun, a rifle, and shotgun. Your Worship, also it was established that Mr. Malema do have a competency in a handgun, during the investigation. I also requested that Colonel Jansen look at the competency of Mr. Malema, and I think evidence was given in relation to that competency. Your Worship, coming to the video footage, the viral footage that I was downloaded from my handset, official handset. I can inform the court that we did not find the source of the viral footage. During the investigation, nor the media house that forwarded the viral footage onto the social platforms. Your Worship, the viral footage was viewed. And I could clearly see, during the viewing of the footage, I can clearly see that Mr. Malema in the footage. He's firing a firearm. Your Worship, I'm not a ballistic expert, but on the viral clipping you can clearly see muzzle flash. Out of my experience during our shooting practices, Your Worship, when we do fire live rounds, there will be muzzle flash. Your Worship, also on the viral clipping, after the shots are fired, Mr. Malema then turns as if he is approaching Mr. Snyman. And then there's an exchange of which you cannot see what they're exchanging. Your Worship, the gear house footage, it's much clearer. it does have different angles. One can see to the side of the stage. Mr. Malema is firing shots from a firearm. And then turn back again. Hands it over. And in a short clip I could see that in the second clipping that there's also shots fired. The muzzle flash, you cannot see clearly with the chaos footage. I cannot see clearly. Worship, also with the chaos footage, if one looks at where the shots are being fired, on the side of the stage, during the reconstruction, that is more or less the same area where the cartridge casing was found, as pointed out by that witness.
You say more or less, do you refer to the direction or the spot?
The direction, Your Worship. Where the shots was fired off.
Sorry?
Where the shots was fired off. Your Worship, the receiving of the gearhouse footage was also just a confirmation of the incident of the EFF celebrations on that particular day, in line with the viral footage that was circulating. Your Worship, after the investigation was conducted, all the reports statements was compiled in the case docket. And referred to the NPA for perusal, the perusing advocate at the time. Your Worship, during the investigation also, a case docket was received from Littleton, which was registered on behalf of Mr. Comfort, who is from the AfriForum. Also, a case docket was received from Hillbrow my apologies if I don't say it right, Your Worship. Blackfist, Landfist, am I saying it right? Blackfist, Landfist, they also registered on behalf of Blackfist, Landfist, they also registered a case docket relating to the same viral footage that was trending on social media. Worship, all these cases of Littleton and Hillbrow conform to the main investigation case docket that was opened at Mdntv. After the perusal by the advocate of the NPA, additional investigation was required. Additional statements was received from witnesses that was identified by the perusing advocate. And additional reports was received. With statements was then requested from Mr. Malema. Regarding the incidents reflected. Your Worship, before that statement was provided, Mr. Malema was informed by Brigadier Governor of his constitutional rights. His obligation not to submit a statement if you so wish. In the presence of his advocate or this. Mr. Malema then indicated that through his statement that he denied the allegation against him, and he will submit his version in court. Brigadier Governor also assisted with consultation with Mr. Snyman, where it was also requested from him to give an account of the allegation. also denied the allegation against him and opted to explain his version at court. Your Worship, the docket was then returned to the perusing advocate. With all the required further investigation and additional statements that was received from the respective witnesses. Subsequent summonses was issued, which was then served on accused number 1 and accused number 2. Thank you, Worship.
These summonses you referred them for them to appear in court, is that correct?
That's correct, Your Worship. Summonses in order to appear before court.
Now, Colonel Swart, it would be very unfair for me to request that you mention all the seal bag numbers and so on. You made 22 statements in that regard. My question to you is, while you were handling some of the exhibits, was there any tampering with the video footage while it was in your possession?
Your Worship, that's no. Whilst the exhibits was in my presence, it was not tempered until it was put into the SCP-13. Or during the transportation of the exhibits, there was no tampering, I can confirm.
Now, Colonel Creer testified on Tuesday, or Captain Creer testified on Tuesday that the second bench that was taken by you were SPA 249-40 was taken on the 11th of August 2018 from Brighton Beach Police Station and collected by you. Is that correct? I think not the 11th, the 17th, sorry.
That is correct, Your Worship.
Just in respect of the spent cartridge, you never said you collected what happened to the spent cartridge once you put it into the SCP-13 in Mdntv. What happened to that after you put it in?
Your Worship, Warrant Officer Becker collected the mentioned spent cartridge for analysis, as indicated.
Can we please switch off all our phones?
That cartridge casing, while it was in your possession, you didn't tamper with it.
That's correct, Your Worship.
Another issue that has arisen, just explain me the fact that you used your official handset and you handed it in at I think it's Captain Bota and Francis. Did you seal such a phone, or what was the process there?
Your Worship, the viral clipping was forwarded to my official handset, which is I used on a daily basis. And then it was handed in at the digital lab where the extraction was done and handed back to me.
Did you see any necessity whether it should be retained at Francis with Francis or with Bota, Captain Bota?
Your Worship, because it was extracted, I'm not familiar with the processes, but after the extraction, definitely there is the data will be then kept.
You have taken a look, have you taken a look at those two video footages, or let me put it, the 3 clips recently again?
That's correct, Your Worship.
Without asking to pay it again, it's common cause then it's now accepted which one is the viral footage and which of the 2 clipping, the other remaining 2 clips is the gear house footage.
That's correct, Your Worship.
I just don't want to assume that is the correct putting that as just sent to the witness. Can you confirm it's not necessary? It's already been confirmed which ones is key house and which ones is the viral footage.
Advocate Otis.
I have no issue with that, Joshua.
No issue, Your Worship.
Thank you. No issue, I may assume you agree.
Yes, Joshua.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you, Advocate Caesar.
Thank you, Bishop. Bishop, now I don't have any further questions for you.
The ball will be in your court, Advocate Otis. We
Yes,
have.
I request a short adjournment taken instruction, please.
Yes, I see there is 15 minutes to the tea adjournment, so will we come back and at 11:45 take the tea adjournment?
I would suggest we take the tea adjournment now, Your Worship, as part of this standing down, and start at whatever time your worship normally starts.
The normal starting time is 11, but I'll ask from the court staff.
Perhaps 11:15 then, your worship. Or 11.
No, it's too low. If you still have to take instructions and also possibly water breaks or whatever breaks, then we can safely say we'll all return at 11 o'clock. It gives you time to consult and your clients and the state to have a bathroom break or whatever. Okay. Thank you, Colonel. The matter will stand down for now. Everyone ready for us to go back on record?
Yes, ma'am.
Advocate Matthews ready?
I'm ready.
Advocate Caesar, you are also ready for us to proceed. Thank you. Just a minute. Colonel Swartboy, for the record, you are reminded that you are still under oath in this matter. And at this point then, cross-examination by Advocate Holders will commence. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Worship. By arrangement between the accused and the legal of the court, the request is that accused number 2 will cross-examine first, then accused number 1, for reasons that you've discussed between us. I'm not abandoning my cross-examination, but I'll go after Advocate Matthews on this witness. Thank you.
The state have any problem with such a request? Thank you. Okay, then just for the record to reflect correctly then, Colonel Swartboy, cross-examination will be done first by Advocate Matthews, who is representing accused number 2, Mr. Snyder. If you're ready, Advocate Matthews, you may proceed. Thank you.
Thank you. Colonel Swartboy, you referred to a perusing advocate to whom this docket was sent. Who was that?
Your Worship, it was Advocate Elna Smith.
That was the previous prosecutor.
That's correct, Your Worship.
Now, did you have occasion to study the charges which were preferred against accused number 2, Mr. Snyman?
Your Worship, I don't understand. If you can just maybe
Did
explain.
you establish what the perusing advocate had decided what to charge him with?
Your Worship, if I can recall, it was supply of a firearm.
You don't have to tell me what it is, we'll get there.
Okay.
But were you aware of what she had decided to charge Mr. Snyman with?
My recollection, yes, the documents was presented.
And you were satisfied with that from what evidence you had?
Your Worship, if I can relate to court, it's not up to me to make a decision as to what charges we brought against an accused.
Well, let's look at count 6, which pertains to accused number 2. And the allegation in this particular count is a contravention of section 120, sub 10, sub A of the Firearms Act. Of course, read with all the other little sections. And it alleges that this charge is of providing a firearm or ammunition to a person not allowed to possess it. You understand?
I understand.
Unless I had been somewhere else, would you agree with me that as this case now stands, and I believe you are the last witness, we do not have a grain of evidence before us that accused number 2 handed a firearm to accused number 1 or any other person for that matter on the evening in question? Okay.
Just a minute, please. I'm also trying to write and keep up. Okay. Tracy?
Your Worship, my role is to investigate the matter, present evidence to the prosecuting, like I said, the advocate that was perusing the docket. And then it's the mandate of the particular prosecutor, which on behalf of the MP, to decide whether there's a prima facie case in relation to what the advocate was just mentioning.
Yes, I understand that, Colonel Swartboy, but you can relate this case out of your mind without even looking at a document that's clear to me, you know, the ins and outs of it, won't sir?
To the best of my abilities, Your Worship.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to put it to you that it's obvious to anybody who's been listening to this case that there's absolutely no evidence to substantiate the conviction of section 120 of the Firearms Act. You don't want to comment, or do you want?
Your Worship, it's my submission that, as I indicated, that we present evidence to the perusing advocate.
All right. Now, the other count that is applicable to accused number 2 is an allegation that he failed to take reasonable precautions to avoid danger to personal property. It's alleged here that he, Mr. Snyman, had control of a loaded firearm which created a risk to the safety or property of the general public, sorry. It failed to take reasonable precautions to avoid that danger. Again, I want to ask you, as the investigating officer who knows this case backwards, is there any evidence being presented to this court that Mr. Snyman, by possession of a firearm, created a risk or safety to the general public?
Your Worship, once again, the evidence was presented to the perusing advocate, and then the decision is made in relation to that.
Sorry, Advocate Matthew. Thank you. I don't want to interrupt your cross-examination, so we now know who the perusing advocate was. She is not the advocate prosecuting.
Oh, yes, no.
So I would also have to say then that the state at this point is Advocate Caesar, who is charging the accused with the charges per the charge sheet.
I'm dealing with the time when the charges, let me just clarify.
All right.
I'm dealing at the time when the charges were formulated and the summons was served on my client. All right, that remained the same until when Advocate Caesar, and quite correctly, Your Worship, on the day in question, I think, was asked to take over the matter.
Yes,
so
correct.
there's no, I'm not quite, as
So-
it was a fact, he's not in the firing line. Although I think he's been also in the firing line many times.
Yes?
Yes, I'm sure he can.
All right, so as long as we could just tell me when we move to past that stage, please, so
When
that
we
I know
pass
if
it.
I'm in the present or in the past.
No.
Okay.
So when the charges were read here in court to the accused, these were the charges that were read to the, you understand? You agree with that?
Yes, yes, Your Worship.
So whether Elmer Smith or the present prosecutor formulated the charges, the state chose to read these two charges to him. You agree with me?
That's correct, Your Worship.
Mr. Snyman, let me ask you this. Mr. Malema, on the day in question, is accused number 2. Is it correct that he was under protection from the South African Police's VIP unit?
Your Worship, that is correct.
Yeah. Do you know how many police from the VIP unit were assigned to protect him on that day in question?
Your Worship, I know of the 2 Eastern Cape personal protection services.
And, sorry,
No, you may proceed.
and the ones that had come from Johannesburg or from Gauteng?
Brigadier Governor informed me that there was personal protections coming from head office. I'm not familiar with the amount of them.
Did you interview these people? The VIP police?
Your Worship, the 2 from the Eastern Cape, yes.
The ones from Gauteng?
No, Your Worship.
If a person commits an offense in the presence of a policeman, is there not a duty on that policeman to act? And if he fails to do so, he faces possible consequences.
Your Worship, if a police official is aware of such offense in his presence, and fail to act, then I will agree.
who had accompanied accused number 2 from Gauteng.
Your Worship, I was assisted by Brigadier Governor, and then my recollection, he interviewed him.
This
As indicated also, the 2 from the Eastern Cape I interviewed.
By Brigadier Governor. Were you the investigating officer or was Brigadier Governor the investigating officer?
Your Worship, as indicated when I started my testimony, I'm the investigating officer. I was assisted by Brigadier in his office.
Why was Brigadier Governor phoning Becky Pele and informing him about the progress in this investigation?
Your Worship, I will not be aware of it.
One answer.
I'm not aware of it.
And when Governor had interactions with my instructing attorney, Mr. Sneyman, and said he's the investigating officer, that was not correct.
Can you, sorry, I was still writing, just to,
Sorry, Your Worship, when
please repeat.
Brigadier Governor, I believe he's a general now. No. When Brigadier Governor at the time interacted with Mr. Sneyman and my attorney, he instructed him that he was the investigating officer.
Your Worship, I'm not aware of it.
A lot of resources being put into this case.
I didn't get it.
Sorry.
Sorry.
I said there's a lot of resources being put into this case. For a person firing a shot in the air, allegedly firing a shot in the air. I'll continue. Did you feel, in your honest opinion, Colonel Swartboy, that there was a bit of political interference there?
Your Worship, I'm not aware of what, if there was any political interference.
All right. Let's continue then with what happened. The defense in this particular matter asked for further particulars. In other words, I can tell you why. Do you know what further particulars are?
The defense.
Yeah.
I'm not, if you can explain, Your Worship.
We ask as to why a person has been charged and on what basis you're saying he did A, B, and C. You understand?
Yes, Your Worship.
Do you remember that? What I want to know is, did Eleanor Smith consult with you about the defense's request for further information and particular?
No, Your Worship, it would have been between my recollection between the defense and the NPA.
Then NPA replied to those further particulars that said they've got no witness that accused number 2 handed a firearm to accused number 1. Are you aware of that?
Your Worship, it was not mentioned to me that was the response to.
All right. Now, you were certainly here in court when accused number 2 pleaded to his counts, correct?
That's correct, Your Worship.
He handed up a statement to the Worship, setting out the basis of his defense to his charge. Remember that?
Worship, what is the procedure during the appearance?
Paragraph 5 of his plea, he stated that I deny that I handed a firearm with serial number XP8249 to any other firearm, to Mr. Malema or any other person. Understand?
I understand, Your Worship.
So from the beginning of this case, you have been warned that Mr. Snyman is denying ever handing over a firearm to Mr. Malema, correct?
I understand, Your Worship.
And knowing that, you have had ample opportunity, years in fact, to find any evidence to substantiate this allegation in the charge. Correct?
Your Worship, as I indicated, that the investigation is completed and it's handed over to the perusing advocate. The decision to formulate charges, that is entirely up to the NPA with that mandate.
Mr. Snyman further denied in his plea that he could have possessed a loaded .223 November rifle.
Your Worship, just before the advocate continues, I indicated that the visuals, just audio, is it still in place? Thank you, Your Worship. Yeah.
You answer me, fellow, right? It's already your plea. Mr. Snyman denied in paragraph 3 of this plea that he ever possessed this firearm and admitted that on the evening in question he was in possession of a shotgun with a fold-up butt. The relevance of that will become now. You heard him say that?
Your Worship, I'm not sure when did he say that?
In his plea.
On his plea. I understand it.
You understand? Again, you have had ample opportunity to investigate that allegation that he made. Correct?
Your Worship has indicated the investigation was completed and submitted.
Sure. Well, now I want to ask you this. A security company has got registers, and by law they must indicate exactly at all times to whom a specific firearm has been booked up. You accept that?
That is correct, Your Worship.
Did you investigate the relevant registers of tactical security company to establish to whom or to what type of firearm had been hooked up to Mr. Snell?
Worship, that's why Colonel Janssen, okay, to say them correct, documents were submitted as to which firearm is allocated to Mr. Snyman.
You're talking about Colonel Janssen who testified.
Testified,
Yeah.
in the TFL office in Durban.
So you accept his evidence that Mr. Snyman had a shotgun booked out to him on the evening in question?
On the evening.
Yeah. Well, during that day, on an evening day, or during this incident. You accept that?
Your Worship, if that was the evidence of Colonel, then I understand that one.
Can you deny that he was in possession of a shotgun?
At this stage, no, Your Worship.
Okay. Did you establish who was supposed to be in possession of the rifle in question here? The SPA. I keep on forgetting that number, sorry.
24914.
Yeah. Then also, did you establish to whom that rifle was booked up? In other words, who should have been in possession of it on the evening in question?
Your Worship, on the documents received,